Okay, here we go. Welcome everyone to another Wednesday night, Fundamentals to Gain Inner Peace, with your host, Coach Menachem Bernfeld. Tonight we're doing class number 59, and all the recordings are available at menachembernfeld.com. You can get the recordings over there. And welcome back. We've been off last week for Hanukkah. So let's get started. So first, just some awareness. How was Hanukkah? Everybody has their own story. For some people, it was great, beautiful. But I always say when things are different, when there's a change in routine, things come up. So it's a good time to become aware. Sometimes to become aware while it's happening could be hard. But after it's done, like now, we're after Hanukkah, now we can look back and see what are those emotions, what are those feelings, what are those thoughts, ideas, what made us happy or the opposite. Things did work out, didn't work out. It's always a good time to reflect and then become aware. Especially getting together with family. Sometimes parents or kids. Some people are lonely. Some would love if it would work out different. They did not get invitations. Again, everybody's different. Some people are on a high from Hanukkah, some are on a low. And some people they don't even know what I'm talking about. What's Hanukkah different than the other days of the week? So it's also something to become aware of. And journaling always helps, just to write it down. Because sometimes people feel like I'm opening a can of worms. Why look? Why become aware? Why think about it? Sometimes it could be hard, it could be painful. But take a deep breath, write them down. That's the only way we can slowly get onto this journey, see, why do I feel this way? Maybe it's the way I look at it, it's the way I think about it, my perception. And then we could see what we can slowly look at things in a better light and with a better understanding, so we could feel a little bit better in the place where we are. Okay, so let's get started tonight. Let's come into the room. Let's get grounded. Become aware of where you are now, what your day looked like. How do you feel? You become aware of that you're external, where you are, the room you're in, or maybe listening to the recording in the car. And then you turn it inwards, internal, see how you're feeling. Stressed out, or maybe bored. Everybody in their situation, to see how you feel. And try to relax, become grounded, take a deep breath, and tell yourself you're okay. No matter what's going on, and you're okay. You can take some time off where you can slowly just be. Yes, a lot of people want to be busy and distracted, but sometimes we can take some time off for ourselves. We deserve some time to relax and to be. So the past few weeks, we've gone through the 12 questions, it's more than 12, but many questions of parental self-reflection. And that's also something for many could be hard. A lot of people wonder, why look back? Why think about, why should I look back and see the way I grew up? And we know the answer already, for those who are with us for a while, that it makes a difference. Of the person that I am now, it does have a connection with the way I grew up. The first few years, You could say till 7 or till 10 or till 15, whatever it is. That's the way we look at life. And that's the way we look at ourselves. That image, the self-image that I have. So to ask yourself these questions, and when things come up, write them down. For some people, it's hard. Some people need help. They should do it with somebody. For some people, they don't have memories. They don't want to remember, or they don't remember anything when they were younger, nothing. Or everything was fine, or no. And for some people, they've gone through real trauma. And for them, they should have somebody to help them, because opening a can of worms like that, don't do it by yourself. But slowly with these questions, you become aware of maybe that's why I think about myself worthless, or maybe I'm always in the negative mood. It could be coming from the adults I grew up with, maybe in school, maybe the friends I had or I didn't have. So all of these ideas that come up, to write them down, become aware, so that slowly we can try to make some changes. See, hey, wait a second. Maybe I could do things different. Or if it's coming from an adult in my life when I was younger, now that I'm the adult, how can I have that self-talk? Take care of myself, give myself what I need, so I could live a little bit more happier life, or more healthy. So that brings us to tonight's topic, the self-care wheel. Now there are 6 areas that self-care, sometimes we discuss self-care just in one area in our life, but really it's in all areas to be able to take care of ourselves and get what we need. So what does it help? It helps, number one, we slowly stop blaming. You can become aware of certain ideas that you have because of the adult, the teacher, the parent, of that self-image that you have about yourself. But now that you're the adult, you can make that change and say, wait a second, I want to take responsibility of my own life. What do I want? What do I want to feel? What do I want to believe? So we all walk around with a story. We all have a story about ourselves. This is what my life looks like. This is who I am. This is what works for me. That doesn't. And we can become aware of patterns. But it's a story. We all have a story. So our story comes from somewhere. And many people walk around like a victim, saying, yeah, this is who I am, this is the way I feel because of ... You can fill it in, whatever you went through in your life. And a lot of people, it's hard for them to change, because if we're not blaming anymore, that means you're the adult. Now you are responsible for your own life. There's no one to blame. And that can be hard. Wait a second. I should be responsible? Me, myself? I don't know if I can do that. It's much easier to blame, to be a victim, and say, this is who I am because of. But the second I let that go, and I'm responsible, that could be pretty scary. So that's another awareness they need to have. If you feel comfortable with walking around and blaming and feeling the way you feel because of whatever happens, become aware of that. And if you need help, somebody to help you, find the help you need. But what we're really looking for is the healthy sense of self. And that means if you are responsible for your life, then eventually you can come out from that story and create a new story of who you are. If you grew up thinking you're worthless, all you need to do is change and say, I am worth. Why? What do you mean, why? Why not? And it's hard. We've discussed it many times. The inner negative beliefs, the negative thoughts, that voice inside of us is not going to let us change so fast. The voices inside of us that's used to saying the story, it could be 10, 20, or 30 years of story, the same story. And now, if I stop and take responsibility and I say, wait a second, I can create my own story, then that voice is going to be pretty loud. So you're going to have to do it. You have to sit down and tell yourself the positive story about yourself. Say, yes, I can. I'm okay. It's okay to make mistakes. Nothing is going to happen if I fail. Failing is part of growth. You become aware of that, and you're okay with who you are, where you are, self-acceptance, and then eventually self-love, which again takes time. But you'll have to do it a few times a day, and then you become aware of that negative belief. And when you become aware of it, just say, oh, here you are again, and smile. It's like, we're not getting rid of it. This is another discussion we had. What do I do with the negative voices in my head? Don't try to push them out. The more you're trying to push them, the bigger they become, the louder they become. So don't try to push them out. Just look at them. When that voice comes up and says, don't do that, you don't know how to do it, look at that voice, listen to it, and smile. That means you're becoming aware of that voice. Once you become aware of it, you can slowly say, wait a second, where does that come from? Maybe I can try, even though I don't know how, and if I fail, I'm still okay. And you might feel anxiety, you might feel, I can't. Become aware of that. And then with small steps, you slowly go to a place where you can be there for yourself and give yourself what you need. So this is really what self-care is, why self-care is so important, to be there for yourself in all areas of your life, slowly to change the way you look at yourself and to tell yourself you deserve, you're okay, and you accept, even though you have deficiencies. We all have things. We're not perfect, but we're still okay. Nobody is perfect. So the 6 areas are physical health. And eventually you can write down, what are the things that you do? What are those small things, small steps that you take care of yourself in all of these areas? And many people, in some areas, they might say nothing. So it's very important to become aware, start taking care of yourself, because the only way you can have a healthy sense of self and be there for others is if you start taking care of yourself. So number 1 is your physical, taking care of your physical life, whatever you need to do. Psychological. Number 3 is emotional. Number 4 is your spiritual life. What do you do? What works for you? What talks for you in your spiritual life, in your personal life, and your professional life? Now, a lot what we discuss over here is your personal life, your emotional life, to become aware of where I am and what I need, and it's okay to take care of myself. The one place where people, they don't realize how important it is professional life. Over there, you can experience burnout or stress or many other emotions. You can think yourself, you think the place where you work, how do you feel? Is it working out? If you would have a choice, would you want to be somewhere else? It's very important to realize how you feel at work. And it makes a difference, your performance at work, what you do. Some people, they don't believe they can change where they are. Wherever they are at work, they're not managing and they don't like it. They would love to leave, love to do something else. And all of the doubts and thoughts come up. Who's going to hire me? I don't know if I can do anything else. What I do now, I know how to do it, so I'll stay right over here. That's a good place to become aware of your thoughts, your negative thoughts. Why do you think you won't be good in a different area? If you want to be somewhere else, try it out. I don't know if I can do it now. I have a family. I am where I am. I can't change. So again, you have to be able to speak to someone to see what the right moves are. I'm not telling anybody to jump and to do crazy moves, but to get out of your comfort zone is very important. We want to stay in our comfort zone because our thoughts don't come up in our comfort zone. We know exactly what we do, our routine. This is where we are, and that's it. I don't want to think. The second I do something out of my comfort zone, I do something new, something that I'm not used to, even that phone call, I don't know how to do it. That's when you can become aware of the voices. And write down those voices, write it down. Whatever comes up, become aware of those voices. Once you become aware, that's when you can slowly take action, whatever is needed. But we always, number one is awareness, see what comes up. So self-care is basically for everyone in every area in your life. So you can think, you can observe your life, see what do I do in all of these areas? Do I do something? Do I take care of my spiritual, my psychological, my physical, or maybe I don't? And if you don't, start slowly, even though you might think you don't deserve, but take small steps. One example where it makes a difference is in your relationships. Wherever it is, whether it's with a spouse, your kids, at work, you start taking care of yourself. Then automatically you can be there for others. You feel better about yourself, your physical, your emotional well-being. And it helps you feel more balanced. We all have things we need to take care of, stresses, everything that's going on in our life. If we know where we are and we take care, we have some time to take care of ourselves. So then when these things come up, we don't get lost. We know how to manage our stress, our emotions. So this is really what happens when you start practicing self-care. You start becoming aware of yourself. And that's what we're looking for. Many people, to become aware of myself is scary. But slowly turn around from feeling that I'm not capable, I'm worthless, it's not for me, I have to be perfect. And slowly we turn it around to say, I'm okay, I can try, even if it doesn't work out, it's okay. And that's how slowly we change our story and we take responsibility of ourselves and the life around us. Instead of blaming, we start looking at ourselves. In the beginning, it's hard. But eventually, we wake up in the morning saying, wait a second, what do I want my day to look like? If my day depends on everybody around me, there's nothing I can do about it. If my day depends on my attitude, the way I choose to look at things, wow, look at that. Slowly, things can change. But if we're blaming and everything of my life looks the way the people around me behave, around me feel, then what could I do about it? There's nothing I can do because it's all their fault. So we want slowly to come back to ourselves. We can be in control. We could change things the way we look at things. And again, if we need to set some boundaries, you get the strength to say, this doesn't work for me. And slowly we can control our life for the better. So this is just before we end, very interesting concepts. First of all, I think we'll have to talk about it more, but just to throw it out there. To be able to love others, you need to love yourself. And I think we mentioned it in the past, but I think it goes very deep and a lot of thought can go into it. So think about it. You can let me know what your thoughts are about it. But our triggers when we meet others, whether it's our kids or spouse, what triggers us about them is our trigger. And my trigger is something inside of me. So I have to be able to accept myself and love myself so that I can love them unconditionally. Because if I need them to do A, B, and C, and only then I'll love them, but not always they do it. So it's conditional. And then if they don't do it, I don't like it. So you heard, if they don't do it, I don't like it. So it's me. So it's a deep concept. We'll have to talk about it more, but that's number one. To love others, you first need to love yourself. And again, it's a journey. But a question that comes in about self-care, building yourself, and not needing to have others give you what you need. So the question is like this: shouldn't I educate my child? I'll teach them to be on their own. Let me be a parent that distanced myself from the child so that they can learn how to be on their own when they're going through their tantrums, their fears. If they're going to get used to the adult, the parents, helping them, so when they're going to grow up, they're going to need somebody else to help them. And what we're discussing tonight is we're trying to get a healthy sense of self, take responsibility of my life, and not to wait for others, to change if I can take responsibility of my own life. So I would want to teach my child when he's very young that he shouldn't rely on me, on the parent, on the adult. You can do it yourself. So I'll let him deal with his emotions, with his issues all by himself. Great question. And the short answer is that for a person to have a healthy sense of self is that few years in our life, those few years when we're young. If we have people around us, with us, giving us what we need, being there while we're going through our ups and downs, then we get the feeling that I am okay and I deserve. And that's where they build that healthy sense of self. So that eventually when they grow up, they don't need others as much. They feel that they are, and they can take care of themselves. They can do new things. They have a self-esteem. They feel good about themselves because those few years when they were younger, somebody was there with them. But if those few years you had neglects or different traumas, whatever it was, and you didn't get that emotional support, then subconsciously you believe that you're worthless, you don't deserve, there's no one here for me, there must be something wrong with me. And once we pick up those ideas when we're very young, those are those that are needy when they get older. They've never learned and believed that they deserve and they're okay. Because when they were younger, subconsciously, again, it's not something that you think about like consciously when you're 7 years old. But if you're going through your ups and downs and you don't have that parent, or adult, or whatever it is, doesn't have to be a parent, it can be a teacher, somebody that you can talk to, that they can help you process. So you feel, wait a second, okay, the things that I'm going through make sense. But if every time I had an emotional tantrum and my parents weren't there to help me, to sit there, to just accept, so then I'm starting to think there's something wrong with me. So I might shut down my emotions. Emotions are wrong. And that's why it's good to, the questions that we discussed the past few weeks, to see where our stories come from, how our parents related to us, how the adults that we grew up related to our ups and downs when we were young, and that's where our stories come from. So that's the basic answer, that the first few years, the more you have somebody being there for you, then you have a healthy sense of self. So then when you're older, you have a healthy self-esteem, and you're good. You can set boundaries, you can say no, you don't need to please, you're okay. But when you were younger, you didn't get that. So now we're trying to learn, now that we're the adult, we're trying to learn why we feel a certain way and say, wait a second, maybe I can change that. Maybe I can take the responsibility. Maybe I could be there for myself. I don't need to wait for everybody else to change. I don't need to blame others. I can be there for myself, and then I can be there for them. And it enhances all areas in our life, in the relationships, wherever we are, and automatically things change for the better. So that was a lot. And that's it for tonight. I'll leave it open for questions. You can put questions in the chat if you have any questions. You can let me know if any feelings come up, any fears, anything I said, if it triggered something. Those are important things to notice, because that's the beginning of healing, beginning of the process. Yes, and Menachem, next week we will continue with we'll go into all the areas to see how we can practice self-care, very small steps. And this is also an important thing. Self-care does not mean you have to go spend thousands of dollars. Usually if somebody does that, that means it's not self-care, it's escape. And they think they'll feel better when they spend all of that money. Self-care is really something very small. Small steps. We discussed it in the past, spending 5 minutes with yourself, taking a walk for a few minutes, small things, closing your phone for a few minutes. Again, in every area, whatever it is. But it's small steps. That's where you can slowly build what you need. Slowly you can be there for yourself. Yes, blaming others and being victims, usually they don't change. Usually those people don't change, because how could they change? Or they don't need to change. You know who has to change? All the people around them. So it's not easy for some people who have been walking around with their story and blaming others for many years. And now one day to the next, I'm going to say everything is me. That could be hard. So do it slowly. Slowly. First, become aware of this idea. Find one area in your life where you might not like, and say, wait a second, who am I blaming? Write them down. What am I blaming? That they are doing A, B, and C. Write it down. Start becoming aware. See it. See those thoughts on a piece of paper. Write it down. And then ask yourself, what's something small that I can do for myself that's going to help me in this situation? What's something small that I can do for myself? And by asking this question in all areas, you'll slowly come up with small ideas that you can be in control, and you can take care of yourself. What's something small that I can do that can help me in this area? That means nothing to do with anybody else, myself. For those who are starting on this journey, they might not come up with any answers. Maybe next week we'll come up with some small ideas, but I don't know. What's something small that I can do? I don't know. And if your answer is I don't know, you're in the right place. That's where we need some help, slowly, to come up with ideas that you can take some time, you can do that small action for yourself, because you are there for yourself. And eventually you're responsibility for the way you feel. And you can do something about it. Isn't that amazing? It feels much better, but it's sometimes scary to make that change. Beautiful. Thank you very much. That's it for tonight. Enjoy the journey, and feedback is always welcome. You can send feedback to coachmenachem@gmail.com. Let me know what comes up, whether it's positive, negative, whatever comes up is important. And any ideas, any questions are always welcome. Thank you very much, and we'll see you, Menachem, next week, Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. Have a good night and a great week.